Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a model showcase video for this 1/35 scale US Army REFORGER M60A3 main battle tank. The model that you see here is a commission built vehicle and is going to a private collector. Like I mentioned in my previous commission build videos, I take on commission build projects from models ranging from 1/72 scale all the way up to 1/6 scale. As for pricing and timing availability, that information would be best found by contacting me through the EastCoastArmory.com website or by a private message via Facebook. This build started off with an Italeri IDF M60 Blazer. The IDF M60 Blazer kit from Italeri is actually nothing more than a rebox of the old Eschi M60 kit from the late 1980s and early 1990s. As was mentioned before in my other M60A1 video, the Eschi kit is known amongst M60 fans as being one of the better M60 kits to be released. It featured a lot of details on it that were slightly better than the offerings from Tamiya. Also on this build, we have several upgrade parts from such manufacturers as Legend, AFV Club, as well as Def Model. A quick walk around the vehicle. The model that you see here features a lot of the same modifications that were made to my other M60A1 build that I did in a previous video. This includes changing out the stock model turret with that of a resin replacement turret from Def Model, as well as the replacement of the tracks with AFV Club workable track links, and also having a general hull detail upgrade set from Legends. The Legends M60A1 and A3 upgrade set includes a lot of very useful and nicely detailed resin and photo etch replacement parts. Some of these parts include the box here in the back, the travel lock, the mud flaps, as well as the tow hook eyelets, or the toe shackles. Toe shackles are individual pieces, and they are not molded in like they are on the old Tamiya kits, or the Eschi kit for that matter. They are independent and give the model a lot more realism. This is true for both the rear and the front of the vehicle. Also included is the Chrysler Photo Etch Super G. That's right here on the mid portion of the lower portion of the hull here. And most importantly on the Legend set is the replacement of the kit's fender mounts. The fender supports are made in photo etch and have their elaborate holes and folds to them represented in the kit. The Legends photo etch set is nicely detailed and does add a lot of detail punch and elements to the stock M60 kit. Also included are replacement brush guards. If we notice that the brush guards on the photo etch are actually miniature angle iron, which is present on the real model. These pieces are assembled from a couple different parts, and they are all soldered together, giving you the best strength available. Also included is the replacement of the tank's fire extinguisher box, which is right here in the front. And as we notice, the handles had been painted red, which is the case on these vehicles. Here go the front toe shackles. which I mentioned earlier for the back. We notice they also have the secondary hole in the bottom portion of them. This set also gives you a lot of details for the model's auxiliary generator exhaust. The resin parts include the exhaust cap, as well as the fuel breather here with the rubber end cap molded on. Also included is a small little photo etch bracket. These pieces are all highly detailed and do give the model a nice look. The M60 as well as the M48s have an auxiliary generator mounted right here in the front portion of the hull. This is to power the tank's electrical system when the main engine is off. This is actually very reminiscent of the Little Joe auxiliary generator that would have been mounted on the M4 Shermans. Also included with the Legend set are the small little rest and grab handles for the tank's storage bins, as well as the small little glass jar that is mounted on the tips of the air filter here. When painting, it's good to hit the little center portion of the jar with some clear lacquer, thus imitating the illusion that the piece is actually made out of glass. As I mentioned earlier, the model's track the kit track was replaced with workable track links from AFV Club. The M60A3 model that you see here features the octagonal non-directional trackpad, and whose background I talk about in my M60A1 video in regards to where the history and where the track pattern came from. Like all Eschi kits, the kit originally came with a set of Lincoln length track. As I also mentioned in the previous video, I was never a fan of these type of track links, so replacing them with the AFV Club tracks not only was easier to build and assemble, but also have a better look on the model overall. Moving our way to the model's turret, like I also mentioned earlier, the entire turret was replaced with a DEF model resin turret set. The DEF model set is very nicely detailed and has a lot of features molded in, including small little grab handles, as well as the smooth rough cast texture that is present on all of these American tanks. The turret itself was modified to lock onto the hull via two small little locking lugs. The locking lugs operate like that of your standard 1/35 scale tank. You turn the turret a certain way, and the turret pops off. To install the turret, I just line the lugs up and twist, and the turret is now firmly attached to the hull. Like on my other M60 build, I built in the same features to this version. That includes an all brass fabricated bustle bin. The bustle bin itself is all fabricated out of brass and is all soldered together, making it very strong and very sturdy when mounted to the model. Also is the model's grab handles. These grab handles here are all fabricated out of lengths of brass and were also soldered together. Another piece that was also soldered together was the bracket for the smoke trajectors that we have here. The smoke trajectors themselves started off as the PE set with the DEF model and are very detailed and very prototypical. Another detail that was built into this model is, if we could notice here, is the small cable that connects the trajector to the turret. Firing cables are made out of wire and are a nice small little bit of detail that, when noticed, really emphasize the model's detailing. For the model's 105mm gun, I had several options. Within the model's kit that the client gave me, he gave me two versions of the Legend set, as well as a turned aluminum gun barrel over here. This here is a barrel that's from one of the Legend sets, and if we notice, the version that I used on the model is the resin gun barrel from Legends. I used the resin one over the aluminum one for the simple fact that the resin barrel is more detailed. Not only do you have the small heat jacket straps that are molded into the casting, but also if you look at where the gun recoils into the mantlet. The small little section here where all the crimps is realistically molded in. On real M60s, the tarpaulin cover would begin to sag and really wouldn't stay very uniform for very long. If we notice that type of detailing is molded in to the resin version from Legends. However, if you look at the aluminum barrel is nice and CNC'd and is perfectly straight and squared. It's a nicely engineered barrel, and it looks like it's just a great swap barrel if you're going to just put it on a standard Tamiya or SG model kit. However, the Legends one is slightly more detailed. The only downside of the Legends is that if we notice from this resin casting here that it has a slight bow and warping to it. Both Legend barrels that I worked with had the same issue. The way this was fixed was I first removed it from the pouring basin. I then carefully heated the barrel with a heating gun. You could also use a hairdryer. Once the resin is warm enough, it will begin to be pliable, and you could then torque and straighten out the barrel. Once the barrel was straightened out, I hollowed it out with a drill bit and inserted a small brass rod. The brass rod will prevent the barrel from warping over time. Sometimes long resin objects like this will warp for several reasons. Either it was extracted from the mold when it was still soft, when the mold was placed in the pressure chamber, it was on an uneven surface, or even it just warped because of shipping temperatures in the shipping when it was in the box, or just because over time they will begin to warp. The metal insert will prevent that from happening and will keep your barrel nice and straight for years to come. Because this model is an A3, it receives the wind measuring device here on the rear portion of the turret. On the A3 modification, a small little sensor was mounted in this little microphone here on the top of the turret. This, from my understanding, would measure the windage and that data would then go into the targeting computer, which when the gunner was lining up his sights, it would calculate the round so you get a better chance on hitting the target. This system was used on the M1 Abrams, but the design was changed a bit and looks like a T. If you look at the back of an M1 Abrams turret, there is a T apparatus mounted in the center rear of the turret that has the same sensor, or a more improved version of that sensor. The Tank Commander's Copula mini turret is also not a kit original. This Copula you see here is actually from the Legend set and is a lot nicer detailed than the kit original, but also features a detailed interior. The turret itself, the mini turret, was modified to rotate, and like the main turret, special locks were built into the mini turret to keep it secured to the turret at most times. Like I mentioned earlier, and like with my previous M60 build, the hatches were made to be functional on both the commander and loader locations. And as per the Legends kit, has the interior detailing for the commander's copula. Here go to two M60s side by side. Over here we have the M60A1 that was built in a previous commission build video, compared to the new M60A3. If we notice that the guns have different elevations to them. The M60A1 was specifically modified to have a more extreme elevation, while the M60A3's elevation was slightly modified. It's still more than that of a standard out-of-the-box kit, but is not nearly as extreme as the A1 that was built previously. And here we have three M60s to show the modification done to the elevation. This model here is an older model and is built straight out of the box. We have the M60A3 with the modified elevation, with the M60A1's extreme modification done in the back. And here's another shot, with a different angle, showing the three guns once again. Both models are painted with a circa 1970s, 1980s Merc pattern. The M60A1 is painted with a desert Merc camouflage pattern, while the US Army M60A3 here is painted with what's called the winter Merc camouflage pattern. As was mentioned in another video, the Merc pattern was nothing more than a standardization of camouflage patterns for the United States military. Most commonly, vehicles with the winter Merc pattern were seen during the REFORGER exercises of the late 1970s and the 1980s. The REFORGER exercises were a joint military exercise with the US Army and West Germany, and it stood for Return of Forces to Germany. Those exercises were conducted from 1969 to 1993. Pretty much they ended. There was no need to conduct the exercises once the Cold War ended. And that concludes this model showcase video for this 1/35th scale M60A3 main battle tank. Stay tuned for more build videos. Stop by and like us on Facebook. And also don't forget to check out eastcoastarmory.com for more 1/6 scale tank builds, as well as other 1/6 scale detail components. Thank you.